mute the mic when they enter, or no? Just come full in.
Hey, we are live right now. Oh, thank goodness we fixed this problem after 27 minutes. Woo! We are now ready. Just waiting for the last person to show up, Erin Thomas.
There we go.
And we're going to go ahead and get started right now. Sorry, everybody who's watching or who's coming into this room right now. We've had some technical difficulties with Zoom today, but we've learned a significant amount of lessons about how to do this for next time. So even though it's half an hour late, it is, we are here and we are so happy that you're here.
Oh, we're live on Facebook. Okay.
We are absolutely live on Facebook. So first of all, to everyone who's watching, thanks for tuning in tonight. This is a really great way for us to keep the conversation going and to keep the song going and, making sure that we continue to make music in the city and talk about what's happening. So I want to welcome everybody here tonight. Tonight we have Meredith Tompkins, our soprano, who's been with us since 2018. Derrick, who's been with us since 2018. Alex Bumpas, who's been with us from the beginning.
1986? 1986.
That's exactly right. And Erin Thomas, who's been with us also since 2018. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. My first question to you guys is, how's it going? What was life like for you before coronavirus, and what's happening right now?
Oh dear. How should we answer? Like, do we do this in turn or?
No, you just start talking, Derrick, and we just listen.
I'm good at talking.
I'll be right back.
See
Bye.
My life when this all started was pretty hectic, in a lot of really cool ways. It's sort of the musician's life, I think, to piecemeal bits of different things together until you find a living. And I don't do so much of the teaching side. I do a little bit more freelancing and sales and stuff as well, but I also do directing. I also sing and I give lectures, and that's all around DFW. And so my daily schedule is typically in 2 or 3 cities every day. And all of a sudden that just sort of stopped. One by one, and it's interesting too, because I have such a tie with opera, I tend to follow the world-renowned opera houses and on their Instagram feeds. And it was a sort of very humbling experience to see that La Scala closed down, and then that the Royal Opera House closed down, and the Paris Opera closed down, and then all of a sudden Dallas Opera closed down.
Mm-hmm.
And it it feels very heavy and boring at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Welcome to Alex's son, by the way.
Hello.
Alex, what's it been like for you?
Well, honestly, day-to-day life has been pretty much the same because of this guy. So we spend most of our time making him feel like nothing's changed.
Oh.
However, what has changed is all of our work for the next foreseeable future has been either canceled or postponed.
It's not funny.
It's not exciting. We're
Not
working
funny.
on the right emotional response to things. And he's honestly really terrible at that.
Mm.
He's happy when he should be sad, and he's generally angry when he should be happy. Isn't that right? You tell him. Tell him. But we've had fun. We're just trying to stay healthy and stay positive. We have this sort of large solidarity system throughout the arts community because everyone is sort of collectively going through this globally. I'm sure we all have friends who work in Europe and live in Europe who are sheltered in place all over the world, and we're all trying to figure out how this is going to work for us. And yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? He said it best. That's exactly how I feel most of the time right now.
Yeah.
Erin.
Yeah, what Derrick was saying, it's gotten very quiet. I mean, usually the 2 months that freelance musicians are most busy is April and December. Because we have Easter and Christmas, and we also have big spring concerts that come up and big end of the year concerts that come up in December. So usually in April, I have a stack of music that I'm having to learn, and I'm driving around and running around like a crazy person, and that is all stopped. I'm extremely lucky that I have a day job that I'm allowed to work from home. I work for an insurance firm during the day, and so I have a laptop and I'm set up to work from home, and so that's been really awesome to kind of make up some of that lost income from gigs getting canceled. But yeah, it's been like Alex was saying, and we're all trying to stay positive and just enjoy this time off. Really, it's usually in April I'm just so busy, and I keep reminding myself it's actually not terrible to be home and just let myself rest for a while. Of course this is like a horrible crisis that's happening, but it's good to stay positive too.
Mm-hmm.
Meredith.
I feel like a lot of my emotions have been echoed by some of what these guys have said. For me, I feel like when this all first started, everything was kind of like a big question mark. Everything from what my daily life should look like, or what my schedule should be. And I'm a teacher during the daytime at a public school, and so that's been really interesting too, is watching the kids, well, not really being able to watch the kids, but helping the kids through this online learning process. And while at the same time I look at my planner of what April should have looked like, and I just had to throw my planner away.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
that's
don't even know what day it is.
right.
Oh yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
asked what day it was earlier today.
Yeah, and sometimes I go back and forth, a series of ups and downs. Sometimes I really miss all the music that we could have been making together, and sometimes I have to limit myself for how much time I spend actually looking at the news, so that I can keep and maintain a certain level of positivity. So I've been really encouraged to see some of the good stories that have come from this. And, frankly, I've been able to call people that I have been almost years behind on catching up with them. And just the chance to learn some new skills I wouldn't have chosen this path for myself. But once my family got over that financial loss problem, there are a lot of good things. And it's kind of like there's a meme going around Facebook now, I think. Before we go back to normal, let's sit down and decide which are worth going back to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to mention too, is a lot of people, taking the opportunity to reach out to people that we haven't, I FaceTime with my sister the other day, and it's things that you can do to reach out to other people and, friends and family that you maybe don't talk to every single day. But I think that can be one of the good things that come out of this, is kind of an appreciation for people that are in your life,
Yeah,
absolutely. We're going to talk about sort of the positivity and all the things that we've gotten, the positive things that have come out of this. But just for our watchers, I just want to give a little bit of perspective on what your schedule looked like before versus what it is now. So Erin, can you give a rundown of what your schedule looks like for an example schedule in April, let's say, for a singer, for you particularly, in the span of a week?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Sunday, I always have church in the mornings. Usually we'll have an evening service as well. So that, Sunday, you're pretty much busy all day long. Monday, we usually have beer degree rehearsals. Tuesday, Orpheus. Wednesday, church choir. Thursday, sometimes Incarnatus, sometimes other things. Friday, usually I have it off. Saturday, I always have mass or some other church service on Saturdays as well. My days, because I work, I'm a contractor with an insurance firm, so my days are actually pretty free, but I usually spend those days looking at whatever music I'm rehearsing that evening. So it's pretty much every single day I was getting my car and driving to Dallas and doing either rehearsals or a concert on the weekend or whatever. So that is all not happening now.
So it's basically like every single day there's something
Yeah,
that would
and
have been
like
something.
what Derrick was saying, like you piece together all these little gigs to make some sort of full-time income that you can count on for the year.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Meredith, what about for you as an educator?
I work in North Fort Worth, and so my day usually started around 6:30 a.m. I'd get up and drive 30 minutes to North Fort Worth to start my day with school. And our school would usually end around 4:30 to 5. So I'd hop in my car and listen to music that I would be performing from some organization on my way to home real quick to grab something to eat, and then straight to a rehearsal. Erin and I are in a lot of the same groups. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there have been so many weeks this year where I've almost not even seen my husband. So it's just been absolutely nonstop. Sometimes I feel like this last year has been sort of like not reality, like a dream. And then I spend whatever extra time I have learning my music for the next concert that's coming up, or perfecting what's happening, or composing. I'm published with a couple of publishers, and so they're constantly sending me proofs of what's coming out next and corrections to look at. And so it's been pretty nonstop. And for that to just suddenly not be that way isn't all a bad thing.
And of all, just to finish this right here, of all of the gigs that you guys are doing right now, how much would you estimate like the percentage of gigs that have been canceled are?
100, I mean,
For me, it's 100%.
I would say
About 95%.
Yeah,
One left.
it's like 90%, and the other 10% is a big question mark of postponed versus canceled.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, luckily,
Oh,
a lot
are
of the
you saying
church
postponed
services-
are you saying postponed versus canceled?
Sure.
Or just
yeah.
work that would be there, but that's not there.
Work that would be there that's not there.
But the
For me, it's
postponement comes with that.
100%.
Yeah.
The postponement comes with that caveat that, you know, we say postponed, but maybe not.
But
You know,
for how long, right?
too. So it's almost like a softening. It's like a stepping stone in a way towards canceling.
Well,
Not that-
luckily, a lot of these churches that we sing at are pre-recording music, because obviously they can't meet in person, so they're streaming their services. And so I've been able to pick up a few recording sessions, and obviously we go in and there's, you know, fewer than 10 people in the room, and we're all standing far apart, and it's super weird, and it does not feel like we're actually even communicating with each other at all or singing together. But that's been a few you know, paying things that have not been canceled. But other than that, it's everything has been canceled.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about sort of the positive aspects that have come out of coronavirus. Personally, I have found this time, even though it is discouraging not to be able to do things like Church of the Incarnation, sing every week, which I'm one of several staff singers, and, you know, having Verdigris rehearsals, one of the things that I've been able to do over this time is, you know, really think through the next season, think through 2 seasons ahead, think about like read studies, read reviews, read things that people have written about, like different ways of thinking, and musicians who have written about music. So for me, this has been almost a blessing in disguise in some ways, because the fact that everybody is paused right now almost gives me permission to pause my life as well.
Right.
And to just sort of like do something completely different, and just like slow it down a couple of notches. So
I agree with you.
Yeah,
completely.
go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off. It's given me and my wife a chance to focus all 100% of our time on this little guy, which ordinarily we wouldn't be able to do. We'd be figuring out who can watch him on the nights where we're both rehearsing or doing performances. And so we try to keep positive by saying that. And in saying that, it's time to go feed this little baby and put him to bed. I love you all. Sorry for cutting things short
No worries.
on my
We
end,
started
but
late.
Fine.
I'm so grateful to all of you and everyone who's viewing that realizes that the arts are not only important, but they're part of the backbone of our society and of who we are. And I think that we will get through this, and we'll find a way to continue to move forward. And so this guy can do something stupid someday.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Bye. Miss you.
Bye, everyone.
So talk to me about
Well-
what it looks like right now,
Well,
Meredith or Derrick.
oh, well, I was going to say on the aspect of positivity, I actually was going to go back and answer the previous question a little bit, and get ready because it's a little bit personal about me. So this has been really tough. To give you a glimpse at whoa, the screen just changed and that was distracting. To give you a glimpse at kind of this year up to March. January was hectic, which in music, I mean, well, in most of my jobs, January doesn't get that busy. There was a bit of rest, but things started to pick up. February, mid-January is when I started directing a show for a university. And while I was there, it was a wonderful experience, but that's going to consume a lot of time. And so my daily schedule throughout all of February was pretty much, I would wake up and either go to Fort Worth and try to do some, because I work in sales and I'm a nationally certified fragrance specialist. So I help.
Oh my. Certified.
Believe it or not, that exists. So I'd wake up and I'd go to Fort Worth. I'd sell something there. Because apparently no one else in Fort Worth can do it. It's that niche. And then I would go to Arlington and direct until 10 p.m. And then I would drive home. The following day, Monday or Tuesday, I would wake up and we'd do our verdigris outreach at W. Griner Exploratory Arts in the morning until afternoon. And then from there, I often had an afternoon gig or rehearsal, say in Grapevine. I had 2 narration gigs that came up, and so I would go to those places and either do something about a lecture or something like that, and then I would go to rehearsal from 6 until 10. And I usually got there a bit early so I could answer questions and whatnot. On Wednesday, I mean, it was like rinse repeat every single day. I was typically getting up at about 9, which is, I can't complain about that, but getting to some job at 10 and getting home from all of my jobs probably close to midnight.
Yeah.
Throughout almost all of February, and including some weekends. And one of the things that I've been trying to do, I jokingly will put on my calendar days of rest. I'm like, I get one day, and so I'll put rest.
Mhm.
Rest, you bleep. I'll put on my calendar so I could try to take care of myself. When this all happened and things started to cancel one by one, I found myself sort of having a panic attack because I didn't know what to do with myself. Because now I have nothing to do but rest. And I went outside. I bought a 40-pound weight vest so I can go run around on a track and try to, because the gyms are closed. I've been keeping myself busy, trying to find the next groceries, trying to paint, trying to do something. And at the end of the day, I cannot fill the days like I used to, which means I have no choice except to wonder why it's so important to me to fill my days with so much shit.
Right.
And
once you let go of that, it's kind of a freeing thing, that, okay, I don't have to be doing something all the time,
And the thing is, personally, I'm still struggling with that. That's a really tough thing. There's so many unknowns that I usually think I'm so confident in because I'm a natural problem solver. When something happens, even if it's a failure, I usually don't take it as a failure. I take it as like a learning tool. And I think, okay, well, that didn't work. And then I'm a firm believer. I say this all the time when I'm directing, is that restrictions breed creativity. If we don't have access to one thing, then we can find something else that's even better without it and make do with it. But right now, I'm finding inspiration in things. I'm finding inspiration in art, but I'm also finding, in many ways, and I'm curious to see how many artists feel this way. So if anybody feels like slipping into Verdigris DMs, but I'm curious how many artists feel this way. Is how many people are finding it difficult to come to terms with themselves on a period of rest or on a period of meditation, or how many people can sit with themselves in a room for a month? And that's, at least for me, it's tough. And it's not that it's not that I feel guilty about anything. It's like, what is it inside that drives me to keep just working myself into the ground to the point that I don't have time to do anything, like catch up with people that I'm now getting to talk to, or do all these things that we sort of take for granted. And I don't know, I'm if there's a positive thing coming out of this, I'm hoping that it leads to a greater emotional understanding of my own being. Understanding that when I go on stage, that's my chance to like bear all, and everybody thinks it's a character, but it's not. And I'm realizing that I need to be able to do that with myself without an audience sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of been my big struggle here is where do I sit with myself when I don't have anything else to do.
As we sort of move forward, I forgot to mention something at the beginning to all of our watchers. If you have questions for us, feel free, please, to put it in the comments in our Facebook live feed. We will answer them at the end of this session. And yeah, please do respond to Derrick's question if you have thoughts or ideas on all of that. So moving on, let's just talk about one thing that's sort of on my mind, and I think that is going to affect us all eventually. Do you think that COVID-19 specifically is going to change the way that arts organizations and particularly choirs are going to function in the future? Do you see that being a difference? Do you see that being a change, or do you think that we'll come back to normal?
I mean, I think at this point it's, oh, go ahead, Meredith.
I've been thinking a lot about this because I don't know if it's this way in every city, but at least in the Dallas and Fort Worth area, a lot of our people that we perform to are family members and members of the community that are in what we would call the elderly category. And so the question that I've been asking myself is, with the virus as it is and how much we don't know about it now, we might be going back to work sometime over the summer, but when will our audience start feeling comfortable with going back out in larger groups of people? And that's a really big question mark. And so I think during this time, a lot of organizations, including us, are going to have to figure out how to connect people virtually in meaningful ways and ways that are well done so that it's engaging. And that's going to require a lot of research as to what people want. And so that might be a good thing, is to hear from our audience that we have through Facebook, that we have through any of these other social media platforms that we have, to find out what you really do want, because we want to keep bringing music to you and connecting with you in meaningful ways.
Erin, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, at this point, I feel like it's a little bit too soon to really know how long this is all going to be. I mean, best case scenario, we could all be back in the fall and things be great again, but that's probably not going to happen. Yeah, I think it's too soon. I think that different organizations are going to have to just get more creative with their programming and the way that they choose to do it. And I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. Derrick?
So I in thinking about what do people want to listen to versus what do artists want to say, is something that I think is really interesting. And this is something that when you, if you think historically, if you look at the industrialization of like the Soviet Union, we have some beautiful music from that area that was, and some very striking music, but it didn't ever catch on because it was all about the workplace and about what people were doing. And so when people were going to slave away, they didn't want to go home and listen to music that reminded them of going to work. So I'm wondering, we have things to say about healthcare. We have things to say about, I mean, there's so many things. Verdi just did the Dust Bowl concert, and it was really like an inclusive, like multimedia performance. And there's a movement in which people were this grand moment where the chorus just ends up coughing. And, I'm like, how much does an audience at this moment really want to see verdigris commission a piece that we sing in masks? I feel like it'd be a bit too soon. So do we try to raise awareness for healthcare? Do we try to raise awareness for the corporate bailouts? Do we try to raise awareness for the little pennies that all of us seem to be getting or are supposed to get? And how early are people willing to listen to that, because it's all people can get on social media right now? And I think it's, part of me thinks that a lot of the music that comes out of this is going to be celebratory and fun.
Yeah.
Other parts of it makes me think that there's going to be a lot of memorial stuff. And I'm curious about where, when we start making statements, when does that happen? What's the time frame for that? I don't know.
I will say that it is pretty amazing that Dust Bowl happened literally days before coronavirus.
Man,
Before
seriously.
the coronavirus shut down. I mean, it was perfectly timed. And I've actually, in posting our Instagram posts, I've been quoting several of our different productions that sort of have texts that relate to today. But in particular, there was that letter that we featured of a school teacher in Oklahoma named Caroline Henderson, where she basically said, in our handkerchiefs and, walking through, we try to survive. And, you ask us why we still stay here. And the answer is really complicated. And it's like, you can literally copy and paste that statement from the Dust Bowl into today, and it still make absolute sense. So,
and this is something that, like the Dust Bowl, people are going to be singing about this in 100 years. Some choir 100 years from now is going to sing a piece that was about COVID-19.
There's a genre of music. I say genre. There's a topic of music that is interesting, and that's like songs of protest that I've always found interesting, because there's so many different ways to bring awareness to something that's important to you. And it could be anything from like one of the most striking examples. That's one of those pieces that you're happy that you experienced but don't really want to do again. Was a piece by Luigi Nono, and it's this 12-tone serialism 30-minute piece of pieces for choir and orchestra that's entirely written by, like, the text is entirely written by letters from people who died in the Holocaust. And so it's understandably it's not a piece to enjoy, it's a piece to endure. Whereas if we think about someone like Haydn writes the Farewell Symphony, and it ends in a comic way where the composer and conductor actually gets up and leaves, and the rest of the orchestra trails off one by one while it's still going, to say they wanted to go on summer vacation to the Esterházys. These sorts of protests, what kind of protests do we make about this? How serious, how lighthearted? I mean, how many protests have we seen that are in memes that people laugh at, but they still raise awareness? So I'm curious to see what sorts of songs of protests spark from this also.
Yeah, it seems to be like there's sort of two gates of thinking right now. One says, when we get back to the summer, people will want to go out, and they will find any excuse to go out and see performances and attend, social gathering, et cetera, and then the other side that says basically people are not going to want to go out at all. And they're not going to, and it's going to take a long time for us to recover, and for people to trust that they can be in groups together. And so, it should be very interesting. We have no idea. And, that is a significant consideration. I mean, you guys all know we postponed Song from the Uproar from April, what was to be this month, to later on this summer. But even then, is this going to be something that is truly going to fill our seats? Is it going to be, are we going to be able to, are people going to feel safe enough to come in groups to see the performers or not? So that's definitely been a pretty significant consideration in all of this, and a factor. I think one thing is for sure though, and that is, this has definitely awakened choral organizations, particularly, to the sense that technology is useful and it is important. And one thing that is really encouraging about this time is being able to see all of these different choirs that are creating virtual choirs. And I know, people can argue day and night, Eric Whitaker did this like 6 years ago, and like, we don't need to do this again. But, at the end of the day, it's still bringing joy to audiences, and it's still bringing joy to people. And that's at the end, like, that's the most important part here. I think the other thing that is really going to be an important thing moving forward, especially for choral organizations, is the idea of live streaming and recording concerts so that they can be viewed not just live, but also over an internet connection. So I do think that those things are all really important. My last question for you guys, and then just a reminder to our listeners, if you have any questions for us or for anyone in particular, please feel free to write it in the comments section below, and we'll be happy to answer it. But my last question to you guys is, what's the first thing you're going to do when all of this is over and we're allowed to be in public again?
I don't want to go first.
I know exactly what I want to do.
Go for it, Derrick.
Go, Derrick.
One of the things that brings me absolute joy, and one of the things that in looking in the past, people have even said that my demeanor is more rested. It's like, it puts me in a happy place. I love to cook for people. And so I want to make a lot of fajitas and have tequila and stuff, and just throw a giant barbecue and have the world over. Yeah. It's not even that I want to go out. It's just that I'm a natural extrovert, and so I just miss camaraderie and people and the experience of sharing a meal. And that's the first thing I want to do.
Oh,
absolutely.
I agree with that.
Well, I'm an introvert, and admittedly, this time here has not been that difficult on me. I've actually kind of enjoyed being able to spend time with my husband. Usually, because I usually don't ever see him. So, but yeah, the first thing I plan on doing is visiting my family and seeing members of my family that I haven't been able to see and talk to and hug in a while. So, and of course, I'll be at Derrick's house eating fajitas also. I'm getting that invite.
For me, it's a personal thing. I'm going to go straight to Abilene, Texas, because my only sister just had twin identical girls.
Oh,
so
that's so cute.
I got to visit them in the NICU over spring break before they came home. But I'm dying that I'm missing out on so much of their early lives. And so I'm going to hop in a car with my husband and go there.
Cool. What about you, Sam?
I currently have family in New York City and in New Jersey, and I have two grandmas that are over 80 years old. One lives in Manhattan and one lives in Brooklyn. So I think one of the first things that I'm going to do, and my grandmother on my mother's side is the only musician, or one of the only musicians in my family, and especially in my immediate family. So I think one of the first things that I'm going to do is literally like fly down to New York City to go visit them and them. So that should be, I'm really excited and sort of nervous right now for them especially, but I'm excited after all this. Very good. Well, thanks all for joining us this evening. Thank you to all of you guys, Erin, Derrick, Meredith, Alex, for sharing some of your thoughts on coronavirus and what's happening and how we're going to move forward in the future. To our listeners, make sure you tune in next Thursday at 7 p.m. Next Thursday at 7 p.m., we are doing a session called 3 Powerful Ways to Overcome an Uncertain Economic Future, which features Dallas's former arts commissioner at large, Cannon Flowers, where we'll sort of talk through what happened in 2008 during the 2008 recession, and how arts organizations, particularly in Dallas, but really on a national level, not only survived during that time, but thrived. So make sure you tune into that. We'll look forward to seeing you then. And thank you all so much for joining us.
I have to say what real quick, while you were saying that, I just like my screen lit up on my iPad and I just got a notification from a viewer that said that they make some mean guacamole. So
Who was
I
that?
wanted to say, can I say one more thing?
fuck you,
Yeah.
P5.
I would just, it kind of got dark here for a while. It got a little depressing, and I just wanted to just, say, like, I've been reminding myself and people this whole time, other people that have talked to me and reached out, like, we really have it very, very good. I mean, if you think about like being quarantined back in the dark ages, or like even in like the 80s before the internet was a thing, like we have the capability to reach out to people and see people every single day. We can, reach out to each other, and it's a comforting thought that this is something that literally everyone in the world is going through right now. And it's as cliche as it sounds, like we really are all in this together. And so it's going to be okay. We're going to pull through it, and it's going to be awesome.
And on that note, I will say that even having a conversation over Zoom tonight with you guys already,
Oh yeah,
has already instantly like made me feel a million times better than how I've been feeling the last couple of days. So it's been really, really great.
I hope people realize how much people need people in this. I know
That's right, Erin. Oh man. Very good. All right, y'all. Very good. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in, and join us next week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.